Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Sunday morning to you all. I hope you guys are doing well out there this morning and had yourselves a fantastic weekend. I do apologize for not being with you guys yesterday, which was kind of odd for me and my routine and just talking with you folks, but I just kind of took the day to enjoy the elements out there with the weather. Went storm chasing, drove all the way to southeast Georgia. Oof, I was about 4 or 5 minutes away from seeing a tornado right in front of my face. In fact, it did damage probably a few miles away from me. Got some pretty good footage, some photos. I posted it on Facebook and Twitter, so if you want to check those out, just scroll down on my feed and they're there. But it was a pretty cool chase. I'm going to put a little video together here in the coming days and just do a little segment on my YouTube channel that's kind of like the day in the life of a storm chaser, and just kind of do episodes throughout the entire 2024 storm chasing season of the storms I do chase. So, I'll probably put some sort of schedule time up for that when it will drop. It'll be nothing fancy, but it's kind of a personal feel to me storm chasing and just kind of me and out there in the elements. And so if you're interested in that, I'll have that up probably in the next couple days. But here to talk about what's going to happen today and maybe into tomorrow. At the very end of the video, we will discuss what's coming up because it looks like it's going to be another active week. We got another severe weather threat to figure out here later this week. The potential for a significant winter storm across the western U.S. Places like Denver could get a pretty big winter storm from this. There's some chatter going on around that area of the country. We'll speak a little bit on that, talk about, once again, the ingredients building for this severe weather threat later this week. And then we'll break it all down for you folks in great detail and get more detailed here in the coming days. So if you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. And as always, if you guys got anything that I can pray about or pray over, as always, please put those in the comments below so I can do that and so others can do so too. So let's get rocking and rolling. The middle of the country, very quiet as you can tell. Not really anything going on. We got some energy spinning around the backside of this upper trough in the form of snow for a lot of areas. It's definitely a snowy Sunday morning for southern Ontario. Snow's falling around the Cleveland area. And then northeast Ohio, some snow in western PA, and both sides of New York State, some higher elevation snow in Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine. Like I said, I do apologize for not having a segment yesterday to kind of give you the latest and greatest information for the Northeast. But for any of my viewers that are viewing from the interior Northeast, like Robin, for example, I know you live up here in the interior Northeast. Please let me know how much snow you guys have got up here. I would love to know. I know the higher elevations was supposed to get a lot, so would love to know anywhere, not just the interior Northeast. But Southeast is much more quiet this morning. Thin line of storms or just showers of heavy rain kind of rumbling through the peninsula of Florida, really the southern sections of Florida. Cold front has kind of swept through. We're going to have an opportunity to dry out over the next few days across the Southeast finally. And there is a system that is affecting areas of the Pacific Northwest, Oregon, Washington State, and then sections of extreme Northern California are definitely getting some moisture this morning. So we take a look at the Storm Prediction Center. Things are much more quiet compared to the last few days. Just a general risk of thunderstorms on the board, almost in all corners of the screen. There is a small chance of even some thunder, rumbles of thunder, some lightning, just thunderstorms in general along the coastal sections of the northern sections of New England. The southern half of Florida could get some thunderstorms, and that's really for this morning. And the Pacific Northwest could get some thunderstorms today, but no severe weather expected. Excessive rainfall outlook. The only area we watch out for is the down east areas of Maine, central coastline of Maine. Could get some flooding risk today, some coastal flooding. We'll watch out for that. But overall, not a big flooding risk at all today. So we're good with that. Watches, warnings, advisories. Look at this. We have the return of freeze warnings as we're starting to get kind of late in the year. And just with it being unseasonably warm across the Southeast, a lot of growth and everything's greened up basically across the Southeast. So there is freeze warnings for the northern half of Alabama, northern Georgia, a couple counties into Tennessee, Atlanta included into this, where below freezing temperatures are expected. I hope nobody's planting any flowers or anything like that yet across the Southeast unless you have a really good way to protect it, but it's still a little too early for that. For me locally here in South Carolina, central South Carolina, I typically wait until the very first weekend of April. That's always my time because I'm a big yard person. I like to make my front yard look really good and plant the flowers and stuff in certain sections of my yard. But I typically wait until the first weekend of April, even though, when you look outside right now, it looks like, you could definitely plant already because everything's starting to bloom and stuff like that. But Northeast is very active this morning. Will continue to be active. We got wind advisories in this tan color. High wind watches up for the southern New England coastline. High wind warnings where it will be very windy over the next 24 to 36 hours across the high country of North Carolina. And then in this purple color right here, you have those winter weather advisories, the pink winter storm warnings, and you can tell it's really confined to the higher elevated regions. Middle of the country, pretty quiet. We do have some winter weather advisories up for areas of the Sierra Nevada, Northern California, Cascades of Oregon and Washington, even some winter storm warnings up. Few winter storm watches up for southwestern Montana too. So let's talk about what's going to happen for the southeast today. It's very quiet. We'll breeze through this pretty quick. Thin line of rain, maybe some storms associated with this cold front will cruise through the southern tip of Florida. After that moves through, guys, it's really quiet. Some snow showers could make it. I'm sure they likely will make it all the way into the higher elevations of southwest Virginia. We will certainly get some snow showers throughout the day. And West Virginia, especially in those higher elevations. But the rest of the southeast is pretty quiet. There's not really anything going on. A cooler day, a more crisp air. It'll feel like the air's cleared out because of this cold front that's moved through, really dried out the air mass and stabilized the air mass. So, overall, pretty nice Sunday, just a little bit more cooler than what we've seen over the last few days. The Northeast, pretty quiet. We got a system rumbling through right now. Very heavy snow in northern Maine, snow in certain sections of Vermont and New Hampshire, depending on elevation. It's probably falling pretty heavy too. Wind-driven rain throughout the morning and early afternoon for the southern half of Maine, down east areas of Maine. Then this system will move into Atlantic Canada, where I will have a separate segment here in a second for you folks. We won't get very detailed, but we will kind of talk about the evolution of the storm. And then, we get into this afternoon, guys, a very wintry mid-March kind of day across this area of the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic and Ohio Valley. Snow will continue to fall in eastern Ohio. You'll have kind of intermediate, like moderate to heavy bursts of snow throughout the day across western PA. These will reach all the way into eastern PA. Could, get some snow showers into the Poconos, certainly the Catskills. Be snowing pretty good in western Maryland, these higher elevated regions here. And West Virginia, sort of a stout northwest flow, kind of enhanced off the Great Lakes. And then we'll have another round after you've already seen some snow of light to moderate snow across just about the inland kind of 2/3 of New York State. We'll see snow, the Tug Hill Plateau. We'll get some lake effect energy kind of flowing off Lake Ontario into the Finger Lakes region, especially just north Syracuse. A little bit of cold air wrapped into this now at this point as we're getting into the overnight hours. So even the valley regions could see a little snow, maybe a little snow overnight in New York City. It's very possible. And then by the time we are getting into Monday morning, still just some energy kind of flying around, some snow showers, and all the way into Monday afternoon. And this low is still spinning around. This could wrap in more snow back into Maine. And so we'll see what happens there. Folks, if you live in the Northeast, and we're going to touch on this more here in the coming days, winter's not over. I think you guys know that. Watching the potential setup for a big shot of cold air for mid to late March, this is going to probably affect not just the Northeast, but the entire Southeast too. That's why it's very important not to plant too early. But this could potentially bring a storm system for the Northeast, one of those kind of late season nor'easters. So we'll talk about that when we know a little bit more in the coming videos. But we'll kind of speak on it here towards the end of the video when we kind of talk about the evolution of what the weather's going to do between now and the next 7 to 10 days, what it could potentially do. So we'll start off this morning. This is accounting for what's, fell between midnight and this morning. But if I keep this going, guys, you'll notice this is snowfall between this morning and we'll just go on and just take it all the way out to Tuesday morning. A lot of snow still to come. The northern sections, interior sections of New York State, a few to several inches of snow expected. The Berkshires are going to get, a few to several inches of additional snow. Green and White Mountains still going to get some heavy snow. But just wrap around feet around this upper low. And we're still going to get a few to several inches of snow up in Maine. We'll kind of zoom into a couple of these areas for you folks. Northwest flow event going to get kick-started here in the coming hours if it hasn't already in West Virginia. So just a kind of closer look at some of these areas. We'll take a look at the Cleveland area where you guys have already picked up some snow, but this was updated around 6:23 Eastern time, so an hour and a half ago. 3 to 4 inches of snow expected, additional snow expected. But I mean, look up here in the northwest corner of PA, somebody might sneak in a foot of snow before this is all said and done. But I mean, some decent March snowfall totals in these areas. Youngstown 2 to 3, Cortland 3 to 4, Akron 2 to 3 inches of snow. So pretty solid early to mid-March snow event for you folks. They're now calling for some appreciable snowfall totals down here to Pittsburgh. 1 to 2 inches of snow in Pittsburgh, especially as we get into this afternoon. Probably more so in those grassy surfaces. Morgantown 1 to 2 inches of snow. Uniontown 2 to 3. Old City, 4 to 6 inches of snow. So some decent snowfall totals into this area. Wheeling 1 to 2 inches of snow. Weirton, I think that's how you pronounce it, 1 to 2 inches of snow. So we go to the interior sections of New York State. Binghamton, maybe a good 1 to 2. Cortland, 4 to 6. Norwich, 2 to 3. Syracuse, 4 to 6 inches of snow. This was updated a few hours ago, so some of this maybe has fell. A little bit of this has maybe already fell already. But, we take it over to State College. Not much snow expected there, but you head on down here to these higher elevated regions right here, kind of in southern sections of PA. Somerset, 4 to 6 inches of snow. Johnstown, 3 to 4. Warren's 4 to 6 up here in northern PA. So some decent snowfall totals, like I said, for March standards. But then we look, for these higher elevations of western Maryland, Oakland, 5 to 8 inches of snow expected. But of course, you get tucked into these higher elevated regions, more snow expected. And then here's a better look at West Virginia. Snowshoe, a good 6 to 8 inches of snow expected from the system, 1 to 2 in Elkins. So definitely a pretty decent winter storm on the way that's really going to get kick-started here in the coming hours with a solid northwest flow event. Don't want to ignore this, guys. The winds really have not started yet. In fact, we'll back it up here and we'll take it kind of back into Sunday. We're well into Monday. But, this is this morning. Winds are starting to pick up in the higher elevations of West Virginia, North Carolina this morning, and Maryland. But this is kind of throughout the rest of the day, getting into the overnight hours. And you notice how those winds pick up even in southern New England. We'll take it all the way into Tuesday morning. I mean, in Pennsylvania, West Virginia, the Mid-Atlantic, New York City, 40 to 50 mile per hour wind gusts are expected in these areas. Very windy conditions will develop over the next 12 to 24 hours in these areas. So very breezy, very, very windy. Strong winds. So Atlantic Canada, I want to show you guys some love here. We'll start off midday today. You'll start to notice some rain in Nova Scotia that'll move in. Interior Nova Scotia, snow. Prince Edward Island will probably start to see some snow probably this afternoon. New Brunswick getting a good bit of snow. Could switch to rain in the southern sections of New Brunswick. And this will continue mainly all rain, maybe kind of a snow to rain kind of event across Nova Scotia. Some areas might stay all rain throughout the entirety of the event. And then, you might start off with some heavy snow in Prince Edward Island, Cape Breton Island, and then go actually back to rain. And then this moves into Newfoundland as we're getting into tomorrow morning, kind of the western areas of Newfoundland. And then we'll get some heavy snow for a good portion of Newfoundland. Now, you're probably going to struggle with more so rain in the southeastern sections of Newfoundland. I'm not sure how much snow you guys ended up getting from this last event. But it gets kind of weird up here, just a broad area of low pressure, a lot of spinning going on in the atmosphere, a lot of cold air gets kind of re-wrapped in. So we're getting into Tuesday, we're getting a lot of snow in the northern sections of Newfoundland, and then we're getting more precipitation kind of thrown back into Nova Scotia, areas of New Brunswick, Prince Edward Island, Cape Breton Island, and enough cold air to maybe this is falling in some light to moderate snow. Just some weird stuff, a weird kind of end to your weekend, beginning to your week, first half of your week for Atlantic Canada, with just a lot of energy just kind of floating around. But between now and Wednesday evening, this is just a European model. I'm not sure, I couldn't find a good graphic of how much snow they were expecting from the professionals up here. And I forgot, we're in inches, but in centimeters, some areas of interior Nova Scotia could get I don't know, maybe as much as 15 centimeters of snow. Kind of the same thing with Prince Edward Island. I think a lot of this will fall right at the beginning of this. And then once again on the kind of the eastern sections of New Brunswick could get, that half a foot of snow kind of range, over 15 centimeters of snow. And then we could get some widespread foot plus snowfall totals across Newfoundland. I think southeast Newfoundland, not going to get near as much, but anywhere from 20 to maybe as much as 30 centimeters of snow, probably more in the northern sections of Newfoundland, will likely fall from this event. Not really expecting any kind of ice with this like the last storm. So we'll kind of give you some update information maybe in the coming videos. The south central U.S., very quiet today. Won't stay very long on this. Getting into this afternoon, this evening, overnight hours, maybe some light sprinkles, light showers in central Texas. But really, there's your 15, 20 seconds of fame for the south central U.S. A nice day. Enjoy your weather. It's going to be cooperative today for sure. North central U.S., that kind of lake effect energy, northwest flow energy wrapping around this low over here in the northeast. We'll kind of head on out. We'll have some just snow showers throughout Ohio today, most likely. Maybe some snow squalls, but then they'll just kind of drift eventually just to the east in general into West Virginia and Pennsylvania this evening, and we'll be done with it. And we kind of showed you some snowfall accumulations in that area. But most of the north central U.S. is quiet today. Very quiet weather. Enjoy your Sunday. Out west, it's gonna get active again out west. Out west will be another big topic here in the coming videos. But today, the Pacific Northwest, really the only area that's getting any action. Higher elevation snow, lower elevation rain. It'll pick up in Northern California later this afternoon. And then after the main push of moisture moves in, we'll just kind of get a on and off kind of convective feed into, the western sections of Oregon, Washington, and Northern California. That's why you do have that risk of thunderstorms. Some energy will escape this area, get into the northern Rockies of Idaho, sneak into western sections of Montana in the form of some snow. And those lower valley regions will probably stay rain with this. Not a very cold system. Not a very warm system either, but not super cold. But by the time we're getting into tomorrow morning, just some light to moderate snow across the northern Rockies of Idaho, Montana, and northwestern sections of Wyoming as we're getting deeper into tomorrow morning. And then another system is beginning to enter your picture, and then that'll move in, and this looks like an even warmer system. And this will kind of move in, dump a lot of rain to those lower valley regions, and then maybe we'll get some colder air that kind of wraps into this, but you got to get way on up there to see any appreciable snowfall totals. This goes all the way out to the late evening Monday tomorrow night. So rainfall between now, this is just precipitation between now and Tuesday morning, a few inches of precipitation to maybe several depending on your elevation. Of course, more if you're higher up with the lift that kind of squeezes out a lot of moisture out the atmosphere. Snowfall from this in the Pacific Northwest, you got to get on up there. Olympic Mountains, though, are going to get a lot of snow, but you're going to get a lot of snow in the Cascades also. But definitely, kind of the coastal range, not going to get much from this just because this isn't as cold of a storm. But, you get into the Rockies with this system. There's kind of a look at everybody. The Sierra Nevada between now and Tuesday morning will pick up a few inches to several inches to as much as a foot. It just depends on how high you live up. And then Idaho, higher elevations of the Rockies and Montana, western Montana, will get some appreciable snowfall totals too, several inches to over a foot. Most likely. Temperatures in the eastern U.S., a cold day across the interior northeast. Just one of those days where you want to stay inside. Kind of a sleepy Sunday. I think a lot of people are sleepy this morning anyways with the changing of the time overnight and losing an hour. Southeast will be, chilly today too. 50s and 60s. Not as warm in Florida, especially North Florida today. And just kind of a column of cooler air across the Great Lakes region. But you get into the middle of the country, folks, and man, you're getting into the 60s all the way up into North Dakota, Montana, 60s all throughout the high plains after, I think there was a couple areas in Nebraska from that quick hitting snowstorm that picked up over a foot and a half of snow. You're going to run the risk. You're going to have a nice warm period between these storms, but this area right in here is going to run the risk of another snowstorm here in the coming days. So we'll actually talk about that here in a second. But speaking on what's to come weather-wise this week, and of course we'll fine-tune this in the coming videos. I might have a video tonight, I might not, just depends. But as we're getting into Tuesday morning, another system enters the west, as you can tell, in the form of, this higher elevation snow. And we'll just go on and zoom in on this, why not here. But you see, the blues and the higher elevations, the greens and the lower. Not a super warm system, but the snow levels could drop as cold air kind of filters in. But then, as we get into Wednesday morning, I really think this could be a big system for Wyoming, Colorado. Low pressure right here developing east of the Rockies. Cold air kind of filters down, and we start to get into Wednesday night, Thursday morning. Check out the snow showing up here Denver's right into here. This looks like one of your classic March snowstorms along the Front Range. Something we need to watch. It happens almost every single year. March is your snowiest month of the year, I believe, for like Denver. You can even get these crazy snowstorms into April. But you get into Thursday morning, and this looks like a pretty significant winter storm showing up on the Euro, and most model guidance has some pretty good agreement with this in Colorado, and then eventually, could sneak into areas of like Nebraska. There's some question marks of like Nebraska and Kansas that we need to figure out. But certainly looks like a big system. We kind of go to the central U.S. and then, we'll kind of start this off Wednesday morning pretty quiet. And then we get into Wednesday. This is around Wednesday evening. Could get some strong to severe storms potentially Wednesday afternoon, Wednesday evening around kind of the southern plains. There's still a big question mark, but there's just a lot of precipitation. Not really any cold air on the northern side of this for like most of Nebraska, South Dakota, but that could change. Like I said, as we're getting into Thursday morning, we got to watch this area for a winter storm. But we're getting into Thursday, lower pressure probably somewhere into here. And then there's probably going to be severe weather down here for Thursday. And in fact, there's already a risk of it, which we'll talk about here in a second. You're probably going to have overlapping conditions, favorable thermodynamics, kinematics in this region. And then this entire system very slowly sort of drifts around because it gets cut off an upper low, full-fledged cut off upper low. And then this could bring, once again, some unsettled weather at the end of our work week across the South. Goodness, if they have to cancel our third soccer game in a row for this coming Saturday, that would just be ridiculous. Our season's almost extended out to May at this point. But anyways, not here to talk about soccer. But we're getting into, Friday. There's a couple things going on. There's a shot of cold air coming down. A lot of warm air in this area. We're getting into Friday. Could be some severe weather potentially across the South. But, we're getting into our Saturday. This is when things get kind of weird and we get kind of far out. We get this shot of cold air, energy associated with it. And then cold air moves in for next week. I think it'll be an interesting week next week. I don't think we're going to get snow in the South. I don't really want snow. I'll be honest, guys. I don't really want snow on March 18th and 19th in the South. It just doesn't hit the same. And it's not as nice as snow in like January, February, and December, in my personal opinion. But I would take it. You know me, I love snow. But, you getting into Tuesday morning, and this is getting next Tuesday morning. It's getting pretty far out, and we got a pretty big-time shot of cold air that's moving down, and things can get kind of weird after that. But that's getting pretty far out. But, what's driving the severe weather threats? You can see the ingredients moving in. This is that huge upper low, upper trough moving into the western U.S. initially. This is in a Wednesday morning. And then we get into Wednesday evening, and you can already see this favorable kind of corridor of kinematics, this mid-level flow, 70, 75 knots right here, the exit region of this jet. Probably going to have some lift for some thunderstorms right into here, right? And then you get into Thursday. Here it is. There's that upper low. It's getting pinched off in the southwest. You can see how it's flowing like this and going like that. This is about to get fully pinched off from the main flow. So what this is going to do is we'll kind of keep this going. This is already getting pinched off, but it's already yanking up a lot of moist air from the south, from Mexico, even the Pacific. You're getting this moist flow from the Pacific out over Mexico right here into this region. So it's starting to get very moist in this area. You already got a favorable upper wind flow through this region for lift for thunderstorms. So you're probably going to get some sort of severe weather threat into here potentially. But you kind of keep this going. This thing gets fully pinched off. There's kind of the main flow, and this thing just sort of dances around down here in the southwest. I think this could potentially prevent this severe weather threat from progressing eastward. But we could have just energy in this area from a northern stream dominated kind of atmosphere up here that could bring some energy down. But this thing getting pinched off like this, is this going to drift eastward? What is this going to do? Is it going to stay over here? If it stays over here, you're probably not going to have as an intense kind of pull north of moisture into the south. So, it's just something to watch. It's definitely not the same sort of system that we just dealt with. But then here comes this huge trough that digs down. You can see it on your screen pretty well. This will bring that shot of cooler air. But before this thing gets pinched off here, this is getting into Tuesday. Moisture's already starting to build, as you can tell. These are dew points in the Texas and the Mississippi Valley region. And then we're getting into Wednesday afternoon. Even better moisture starting to build into Texas, Louisiana, dew points in the 60s. And then we're getting into Thursday. Dew points climbing to upper 60s, low 70s in eastern and central Texas, all the way up into Arkansas. That low right in here somewhere, pulling that moisture. But if you notice, we're getting into Friday. Yeah, there's a lot of moisture across the south. But, what kind of kinematics do you have in place for kind of severe weather? It's a question mark. We need to watch. And then we kind of get the push of it's starting to feel the influence of this trough dinging down. And there is a lot of moisture where there is moisture across the south, but it's really shunted southward, and then everything gets kind of shunted southward with a big cold front that looks like it's going to sweep through the entire eastern U.S. potentially here in about 8 to 9 days. So you look at that storm fuel in the atmosphere, and you can already see it building into Wednesday. Already Cape values reaching well over 1,500 joules per kilogram. Then we get into Thursday, and this is the big severe weather day potentially for Thursday. Now, just because you have rocket fuel for storm energy, that doesn't mean you're going to get storms. You got to have no cap, no warm air aloft to prevent the growth of these thunderstorms. So, we got to watch to see what happens, but there's going to be a lot of fuel in the atmosphere. But what happens as we get into, Friday? Could there be a severe weather threat across the deep south for Friday? I think there could. We just got to watch. And then we get into Saturday, and I think that you'll kind of be just lacking some overlapping of ingredients. So, you kind of look at the play-by-plays from the Storm Prediction Center. We look at Tuesday. I know I haven't mentioned Tuesday a whole lot, but there'll be like a little weak system ahead of this that could bring some severe weather for Tulsa, Springfield, maybe up to Kansas City and the southeastern portions of Kansas. We'll watch this and how this evolves. But really, we go into Wednesday. It says predictability too low. So we'll see if that upgrades or trends into a marginal or slight risk. But it's really Thursday. Let me back up here. It's really Thursday that you got to watch out for. 15% risk of severe weather already at day 5. Means there's a level 2 out of 5 risk, a slight risk at day 5 already for this area of Texas, areas of Arkansas, Louisiana, and southeast Oklahoma. So this is what we need to watch out for the most for severe weather as of now. I don't want to tell you guys what kind of look at this as far as the snow signal from the system that's going to move across the western U.S. eventually into the Front Range region that's going to promote that severe weather threat we just talked about. But as you can tell, there's snow branched off in the main higher elevated regions in Colorado. Denver right into here. This could be your classic setup for a winter storm. Denver really close, tucked into here. You got a several inch snowfall mean, guys. It's a pretty hefty snowfall mean across this region, almost well over a half a foot. So there's a good chance for winter weather on the way, even outside those higher elevated regions of Colorado. So we need to watch this. This could be a big winter storm for the Central Rockies, even a winter storm signal, even into like western Nebraska, even a little bit of a snow signal here in places of like northwest Kansas that just saw a lot of snow also. So that's all I got, guys. Thank y'all for tuning in. God bless all y'all, and y'all have a wonderful Sunday.